When you talk about tech, I think we all understand the importance of tech and what tech can do. However, you talk about connectivity being not at the level it needs to be in South Africa. Is that because it's not there or people can't afford it?
It is there, but it has not penetrated to a lot of places in the rural areas. And I think the same can be said of the rest of Africa. But it's also the issue of access, because getting in a country where you have most people who are poor, they don't have access to buy mobile phones, but also data is still very, very, very expensive, and that's a prohibitive factor.
What percent of the population would you say has access to the internet?
I would actually say in South Africa, maybe about 40% of the population has real access to the internet.
So in other words, 60% doesn't?
Yes.
And would that be the same across Africa, or on average would South Africa be better, worse, or average?
I think it should be like that. I mean, I think that countries like Rwanda or Kenya have done well, but I think there's still a depth of penetration of mobile technology in most of Africa.
And when governments look outside their country to get support and assistance, they always say help starts at home. Has your government provided the right environment for international companies to come to South Africa? In other words, if those who are here today that are thinking we would like to do more in South Africa or come to South Africa, is the climate welcoming, or are there challenges from the way government has set up the infrastructure?
Well, I think if I speak for South Africa, the government has made it easy for companies to come to South Africa. They are already existing there. If you look at Microsoft, there's a presence there. You look at Cisco, they have a presence there. And many other companies have a presence there. That's not the issue. The issue is what has been provided by tech companies accessible to all the people in society. For instance, you'll find that in most tech companies, there's a death of women in those companies. And also that not everybody has access to the technologies that have been developed. I know that companies like Vodacom are trying to create cheaper tablets that are going to be accessible to school children in the rest of the continent, and that has to be lauded and encouraged, so that I think for me, the most important thing is that there should be collaboration between our governments and the tech companies to be able to adapt the technologies for the unique environments that are there in Africa.
And when you talk about children, of which are all our futures, in terms of education, how is education for children in Africa? Do all children get education, or a certain percentage? Where is education in South Africa, and the number of children who have access to full education?
I think if you look at, on the whole, on the subcontinent, the governments have been trying. There's a certain number of governments that have offered free education in terms of primary school, and some for high school. But I think that the challenge is that over the past 2 years, when we have had COVID, it has been very, very challenging for children to actually go to school. And so those countries that have adopted the technologies in terms of the iPads for virtual learning have succeeded. But not everybody can afford to buy the iPads for their children, so that they can and actually have the money to pay for data, so that their children can connect to this virtual learning sites.
So that's a huge problem to overcome, the fact people can't afford. So in terms of assuming people can afford, and villages and towns around the country can raise the money and progress enough to afford, what percentage of the country would actually have internet? Like today, for example, my mobile phone wouldn't work walking across the car park, so South Africa's not the only country in the world to suffer from connectivity. But in practical terms, if I was to be traveling around South Africa as a tourist, would my mobile phone always work, or would there be parts of the country where I'd get no signal?
Well, I think that, yes, it wouldn't be a continuous, I mean, because South Africa also we have load shedding, which is inconsistent electricity supply. So, I mean, all of those things affect connectivity and your mobile technology in certain places. Yes, if you're in the big cities, it's easy to connect. If you're in the rural areas, that's a major challenge.